first flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Welcome to the Health or High Water Podcast.
Hey, what is going on, my friends? This is Brett here from Ascend Performance Training. We are on the Health or High Water Podcast. Also with me today, of course, is your favorite Mr. Trip Parks.
Hola.
Trip, how you doing today?
Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
Trip is in a special kind of mood today, so you know this is going to be a great podcast. First of all, hope you guys are having a wonderful day out there. Thank you so much for joining our journey on the Health or High Water podcast. We've had some incredible guests on here recently and have some amazing ones to continue this on. Trip, who do we have? I know we have Dr. Randy Snook of O2 of Hematech, which is a company that has developed oxygen treatments. They have 46 global patents. He's a physician that is using this pretty incredible new technique of treating certain things with oxygen, which is kind of crazy. We're going to have him on the podcast. And we also have
Dr. Doringer coming in on Monday. Tuesday, sorry.
Discussing...
I think it's... Yeah, he's a neurologist, I believe.
Okay.
I have to double check on that. I apologize to Dr. Doringer if you're listening to this, but I'm without your information yet. I typically do all of our research the day before the podcast and haven't got to that yet.
I mean, no worries. Just throwing out some nuggets. We have a company called Through the Game, which promotes wellness for athletes, mental health, and we're going to be working on a partnership with them where we're going to be focused on young athletes and how to, improve their mental health through activities we'll do and speeches, and we're going to have them on the podcast, which is going to be fantastic. So we have a lot of guests. We have a lot of exciting things. Also, what's going on tomorrow, Trip?
Grand opening.
Our grand opening is tomorrow. What a amazing, incredible journey it's been. Grand opening tomorrow. It's going to be more of a hangout, guys. We are, again, located... off Colfax. It's 1472 Jersey Street, just across from the Starbucks in East Denver. If you're in Denver and you want to come by and just hang out with us for a little bit, come and check out the space. We're going to have some music playing. We're going to have some bags or cornhole, as Trip likes to call it. And it's going to be a good time. And stop by. And we're going to have Laguna's Coffee, which is a fantastic brand here in Denver. We're going to be having their coffee. So if you are a coffee drinker, we got some stuff for you. Other than that, life is good. What's going on in your life? How's everything going?
Great. We're doing well with the book. Podcast, guys, thinks we're over 700 downloads already. And we just started this at the end of April, guys. This is... It's quite an undertaking for us to try to do this while we're opening a business, and we just appreciate every second you guys have listened to this. This has been Brett and I have tried to do Fridays from now on where we recap what's going on and what we're grateful for, and there's a lot to be grateful for right now, man. And it's part of that is through the audience listening to us.
Also, I'm just going to remind you that that cord, just so it's not going all day. If you guys hear the sound, that's Trip's microphone because he's on the podcast like he's a rock star right now, which he is. He's also wearing a shirt that says "Put it in reverse, Terry."
Shout out to Nathan for the shirt.
Yeah, to his buddy. Hope you guys are doing great. Today, we're going to discuss a little bit about the scale. This episode's going to cover, I'm going to ask Trip some questions here, going over into depth about getting on the scale, how to track your progress, and just how to wrap your mind around your progress. This especially goes into some weight loss clients for sure, people who have weight to lose and know they want to get healthier, but there's other metrics too. So why don't you just start this off, Trip, and give me your spiel on the scale, how it pertains, and do you use it with your clients, and how do you use it?
So for me, the biggest thing is we have to talk about what the problem is first, is that weight or that pounds, or we measure pounds or however else does it, kilograms across the pond. When we measure just that, we're not getting an accurate measurement of our actual health. You could have someone who's 200 pounds of muscle get on the scale, someone who's 200 pounds of fat, and the scale's going to say the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with it. It's not really a good measurement. And I believe that there's tons of problems like psychological problems, eating disorders coming from the scale. I think that there's unrealistic goals and terrible social media out there just focusing on weight loss, and other fitness companies that are doing the same, using that metric to try to scare you into working with them. And I'm really sick of it. I don't use the scale for my clients necessarily, just your generic scale. We have something here at Ascend Performance Training that you love using too, is the InBody.
InBody. I love the InBody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It has more detail about like BMI, symmetrical work with your arms and back and chest. It gives you a better picture of what your overall health really is. And if you're not getting like things like blood work and other things done too, like how do you really know anyway?
So you use are there times when you do use the scale where you find it necessary to use it?
Not unless I'm measuring for BMI. No, not really. I don't see the point.
Okay. What's your thoughts on BMI? Because a lot of people, tell people about what BMI is. Go into depth a little bit about what BMI is and what you use it for.
So it's your body mass index. I kind of forget the measurement off the top of my head how to actually do that, but it's your height over your weight. It's a lot. For me, it's a lot more of it's a more accurate measurement of what our health is, because the scale doesn't include your height, and that could dictate, again, someone could be 200 pounds at 5'4" versus someone who's 6 foot, 200 pounds, and you're talking about a whole different poundage, right? So for me, using that measurement is, do you have the
Yeah. So, BMI is you divide your weight in kilograms by the square of your height in meters. For example, if your weight is 70 kilograms and your height is 1.75 meters, your BMI equals 70 kilograms, 1.75 meters squared, which would be 22.86. Of course, would be, we don't use kilograms typically. So it's your height and weight. But isn't that, somebody could be the same height and weight and be incredibly healthy, and someone could be the exact same height and weight and be not healthy. So how then does BMI, how then explain kind of how that?
I'm actually really glad you said that, because it's just part of our tool to use.
Okay.
Right? Part of our tool. We do other things like blood work. If people have ever like want more measurement, go find a gym or a place that uses an InBody, and it'll get your total body fat, right, as well. So using all these different things, your blood work, your genetics, these different measurements on the scale as a whole, instead of nitpicking each one, right? They're all supposed to be used together.
Okay.
So that's where that comes in. Why I think BMI is important, but it's just one color of the picture.
So okay, so you get someone's BMI, you want their blood work. Do you want everyone to get their blood work, or do you want some people? Like what? Talk me through that process.
Everyone, every single person. I mean, at least once every 6 months. I mean, a lot of things can change in 6 months with age, hormone factors, things we eat. We could be missing stuff we don't know we're eating. It's like, oh crap, my vitamin D is low, and you wouldn't know that without blood work. So I think it's really crucial. And you and I did talk about this a lot into depth about, hopefully insurance companies will have better rates for people that do things like blood work and can show they're going to the gym 5 times a week, and use these qualitative results to make sure that they're staying on the right wellness path. But yeah, I mean, I think blood work should be done every 6 months. I think you should get a full blood panel. That's your vitamins, minerals, lipids, all that kind of stuff, as well as your hormones checked as well. Because a lot of these could also indicate things that could be happening to your body. It's like, well, these one levels up. It's like, well, you might have something going on with your body, like either a new allergy, cancer, sickness. And again, if you're not constantly checking up on these, you're not in the know, and that's typically the problem with a lot of us Americans too, is we rather just not know.
What are the big things with blood work? Because there's a lot you can test for, right? You can get is there something you're recommending? Because you can do like a complete blood count. You can do like a basal metabolic panel. You can do a comprehensive metabolic panel, lipid, like thyroid function. Is there something? All of it, yeah.
Full blood
panel.
Get it all.
And then you're using this. Is it just to get an idea? Hey, here's where we're at. Just like as like a safety marker for somebody to understand, make sure they're not going one way or the other, like too far on something?
So it works on a few different levels. One of them is I get to show the client exactly where they're at, right? So hey, like listen, this example I've had done before. It's like, hey, your AC1 level's high. Do you know what that means? And she said no. It's like, hey, the higher AC1 level is, the more likely you're diabetic.
What's an AC1 level?
AC1 level is I think it's the don't quote me on this, the insulin rating for your kidneys, I guess, or something.
Also known as hemoglobin. Is it sure it's not A1C?
That might be that. Yeah, sorry.
A1C, or glycated hemoglobin, which is a blood test used to measure average blood sugar levels over a period of time, typically the past 2 to 3 months. It's a valuable tool for assessing how well diabetes is being managed. A1C. Seems like you may, yeah.
Yeah. So again, like the
hemoglobin in the blood.
Yeah, 100%. I was a little off on that.
It's fine.
But
it's all good in the hood. You got a lot going through your mind.
Oh, dude, it's like firing like crazy. But yeah,
so to get that checked.
So that's one of the things I look at, and that gives you a direct representation. It's like, all right, well, we're gonna cross-reference this with your genetic diet, right? It's like, all right, we're gonna have to keep out of a ton of foods with LDLs in them. Like, you have to eliminate those foods. Let's get that AC1 down. Let's take out any kind of other sugars that are going on, and we'll come back to it in 6 months and see if we can readjust and moderate your diet a little better.
Okay.
Like, using these kind of tools gives you a much better. It's going to give you way more accurate results with your person too, because you're gonna know things in real time. And that's the problem with a lot of that. I think a lot of just personal training or just nutritionists or just hormone clinics are missing, is these other aspects that go into it. They're all synergetic. Right.
I saw you when you were doing a consult with one of your clients, and you were comparing the genetic test with the blood test. What's the deal with that? What are you looking for when you compare a blood test and a genetic test? Is it you're looking for similarities, discrepancies, or congruencies? Like what's kind of like your process through that?
I'm looking, 100% similarities. I'm looking for things that are off kilter as well, and I'm looking for things that should be there. For a really good example is that client had vitamin D deficiency in her blood. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go back to the genetic test and double check and see if she's predisposed for this. If she's predisposed for this, she probably needs to take more than the recommended dose or get more vitamin D. It's a good assumption, right? Like,
totally.
Hey, if A, then B. So being able to use both of those tools together, showing that person as well as like, hey, you have a predisposition for vitamin D, and hey, look, your blood work says you have low vitamin D. And this person's already taking a multivitamin and vitamin D, right? And that's why, certain, I'm just feeling that certain dosages and whatnot are not accurate for other people. And a great example for this is World War II fighter planes. I know it sounds stupid, but hear me out. So they had to make the fighter plane back in the day for your average human, which when you do averages for humans, it looks kind of like a funky, like square, long-armed, leg-looking person at 5'4". So no one fit into the fighter pilot properly, the fighter properly, right? They're all encumbered in there. The bigger guys, the smaller guys couldn't see over. So like, that's a great example of like how we need to tailor these kind of things to what we need. We can't build around us. We got to build from within.
Interesting. That's super cool. You're using that. So what else? So you got the genetics, the blood work. You're getting them on the. Let's go back to the scale for a minute. What's your thoughts on? You mentioned mental health, and there's something else you said, like not depression, but something else about getting on the scale and keeping your mental health. Tell me what you meant by that.
I don't just believe, I know that the scale causes eating disorders, right? Like anorexia, bulimia, because people are so focused on that number. If I'm not down to 120, if I'm not at this number, and you hear it a lot with personal training. We both do.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm not at this number, and then you start asking, like, why do you need to be at that certain number? It's like, why is that number important to you? It's like, well, let's go ahead and rediscuss what we're talking about with health. Let's redefine what that number is for your health. Let's go ahead and get you healthy first, and then we can talk about getting to that quote-unquote number. And hopefully by that time, you're able to educate your clients that number means nothing. Their overall health means more, right? So using those kind of things, but I do believe that these psychological disorders are coming from, like, unrealistic goals, especially with people with genetic predispositions not to have certain body types or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's built differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's unrealistic goals and stuff too, and we're putting so much pressure on ourselves to the way we look. And that's been happening for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've seen a spike in eating disorders the past like 40 years or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Mental health definitely related to body dysmorphia issues for sure.
Right, and I think that social media does have that influence on it of all that pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point actually. The way you made that. So you get their blood test. You have a genetic test. You're looking at the congruencies. You do get them on the scale occasionally. It sounds like sometimes you don't even use it. What else? What else in there? Then you got the physical assessment. You're taking them through a workout. What else goes into that I'm missing? Goes into your process. What else are you taken into account?
So the big thing is teaching people about body composition. There's a lot more to you than just fat, right? You got muscle, bones, tissue, cartilage. There's a lot more to you that, and you don't know really what's under the skin without something like an in-body scan, right? So I don't know if I'm answering the question properly, but like those kind of scale uses are, those kind of numbers are what makes this so important to, like, we're talking about psychological factor, because people don't realize that body composition, there's so much more to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you could genetically have someone have denser bones, someone have denser muscle, or whatnot, and we're comparing everyone the same on that scale number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to go back with body composition, this is kind of a thing that pulled up today. Overemphasizing weight, ever since the weight by itself can lead to body image issues, eating disorders, mental health challenges, and the number one on the scale can become a source of stress, anxiety, and self-esteem problems. Right? So educating people through like what body composition is and whatnot as through the training process goes, like, hey, this is what muscles weigh this more time than fat, and trying to educate people properly, and that's the lapse from people wanting to get fit, and what we're doing is trying to educate them in that process of what real wellness is.
What's the mental health component then to that? Like, how do you, after you kind of assess physically, how do you approach the mental health aspect of when you get clients in here? You have somebody that needs work on, obviously, their self-image, et cetera, et cetera. How do you approach that? Is it just by happenstance in the conversations you have, or do you have a direct protocol for that?
Well, it depends on how they approach it too, right? How they're approaching their fitness journey. But we'll just go ahead and use that person who's looking for their poundage to go down, or I want to lose 10 pounds.
I'm trying to lose 40 pounds. Yeah, I want to.
Right. I start there, and but like I said, like with the education process comes first, is because I'm trying to get them out of that mindset. The last thing I want them to do is be focusing on this weight, right? And then you start teaching them other things, like, oh, let's talk about your sleep.
How do you get them out of that mindset?
It's just education. I just talk to them like they're my friend, and I try to explain things as they come up. It's like, well, you talk about sleep. It's like, are you getting good sleep? It's like, well, I don't sleep well here or there. It's like, well, why don't you write that down in a journal, and we can try to figure out the source of the problem. You know, or ask your wife, are you snoring? Or do you toss and turn a lot? And asking these questions gives us a better picture to understand what the whole health problem is.
So then with the mental health thing, and I kind of cut you off there with that question, your protocol depends on the person, right? Like how you're going to approach it.
Case by
case, figure out, hey, what do I need to do? How does this person view the weight? Educate them on why the weight's not important. And how long does that typically take for somebody coming in? I mean, I know it's a case by case, but like, give me some background on like to get there. Give us some parameters.
It could take anywhere from 2 weeks to forever.
Yeah.
You know, some people will always have that in the back of their mind, that weight is the most important thing, right? You know, that scale is it's like the judge all be all of what their health is, and that it makes me super sad that that's the case. But that's what our health and nutrition system has done to us in this country, and what the government has allowed to go on education systems. You know, teaching us the food pyramid and whatnot, and screwing all of us up because of that.
Dude, what's the deal with the food pyramid, man? Have you looked at recently? They put out like, it was like Lucky Charms were like 5th Like they put up like who
Yes.
was it? Was it that it was? I don't know who it was agricultural or it was like the FDA or one of the governing bodies. I can't remember who it was. Had put like Lucky Charms or like oat cereal as like third or fourth above eggs and above red meat like steak. What's the deal with that? Why are they doing that?
Oh, it's
What are your thoughts?
it's lobbyists that are putting it up there. It's like, hey, put that up there because it will sell more. If it's the same thing. Like, dude, the FDA's got lobbyists that come up to them too. It's all fucking rigged against us. Whoever's making the most dollar, like, hey, I want my shit right. And this is the same that happened with the original food pyramid. Is the whole grain industry wanted to be the top of the food pyramid. I mean, hey, we're the staple of American breakfast. We have cereals. We do toast. We do pancakes. You know, they were the staple, and they wanted to be a part of that nutritional system where there's taught in school that's what you do. Hey, simple carbohydrates are the top. It's a great way to start your day with energy. But then what they don't tell you is you crash by 11. And then all that sugar turns into fat. And that's because our system isn't really a thorough system. It's lobby based on big companies. And that's why we see such a disconnect with teaching these people about things like the scale's wrong, about good fats and bad fats, and not chastising things like carbs. You know, all of them have a time and place.
So what's the deal with big agricultural then? It's just profit driven? Is that kind of and that's causing the issue? It's profit driven, and then they prioritize mass profit over, and then also like what's the deal with GMOs and where that's heading?
Well, yeah, I mean, we live in a capitalistic society. That's exactly what they do. The more money, the better. I mean, look at why they put all these pesticides and stuff on our crops so they get a better margin. Like it'll cost me X amount of dollars to spray some pesticides, but I'll get X amount of profit afterwards because I don't damn be the consumer, right? And you see a huge wave of people doing their own farming and their own crop or their own like chickens and whatnot. You see a huge influx in that because people don't trust big agriculture because they see what happens. I think the trust is going away, and genetic modified organics, I guess, or genetic modified anything is so big, and is because they're profit margins. Like thicker wheat equals more margin. Right? If I can get more yield out of my crop, you think I'm not going to do that from a capitalistic standpoint?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course you're going to do that.
Yeah, you're making more profits.
You're making way more profit. You're making more per square inch, and that's kind of like the whole point about the business is how much can I make out of a square foot or whatnot? Like how much can I pull out of that? And that's why when we focus on quarterly year earnings instead of the people and the health in this country, we fall short every time, and we wonder why.
There's a huge thing with agriculture that we can get into. I don't think we'll get too deep on it today, but there's some huge concerns with GMOs. Now, there's a lot of genetically modified fruits out there. I mean, look at the banana. The banana has evolved, and it looked nothing like it used to. But there's a lot of concerns with genetically modified organisms, and now where the food and agriculture industry is going. I think we'll probably set aside a whole episode to go into depth on that.
Oh yeah.
So getting back to your program, you got the genetics, the blood work. You're improving the mental health of somebody. You're getting them into a program. What can somebody expect? Just give me a picture of like the first 3 months. And 6 months of a program, just give me kind of like a skeleton outline of what you're working on with them and then how you approach that, getting them into that.
So I treat every training session as almost like a classroom, right? Like I treat it like, hey, like while you're here, we're gonna start learning. Like while I'm asking questions, I'm trying to get more information from you, and I'm kind of like teaching you stuff as you go along. And the first thing that we focus on is scheduling. If you can't get your day in order, not much else is going to follow. So we focus, especially on the rough times. Like a great example is someone had a hard time figuring out when to get a protein shake in, and then we found out that if we get a protein shake at the fridge at night on her way out to take the kids to school, she can have it on the way there. And unfortunately, a lot of us are not aware how to fix these problems because we can't see it. You have to have that outside perspective to come in and realize, oh, you're right. I could fit that there. I could get a 15-minute workout in right here at my desk. I usually have a little lunchtime here. I could eat lunch during the meeting. Like those kind of things, they might sound stupid and silly, but make the biggest impacts on the long-term success of these clients. Getting your day organized and getting rid of the bad and filling it with good. And we did a little bit on habits, little episode on habits before. If you guys want to go check that out, I think it's one of our first 7 episodes, I believe, in the book Health Profiling that Brett and I have out. There's the biggest chapter is scheduling and habits. Right, so working on that's the first stage with them, is working on scheduling and habits, and while they're in gym, like teaching them form, making sure all that's kosher so we can go to the next level with workouts. Right, teaching the basics so we can get on to the next phase, making sure they're not plateauing. The next phase, once they get their schedule straight and they start doing little things, is start doing, all right, we're going to start tracking, we're going to start doing some more with macros. Like we're going to teach you how to do a food journal. We're going to teach you how to qualitate what you're doing for yourself, for your sake. We start getting that done, right? And as we're going along with this too, we want to make sure that we're instilling confidence in our clients and installing that drive that, hey, you can do this, you got this, but also making sure that they're holding themselves accountable. I think that the idea that trainers are the ones that should be accountable or coaches should be accountable, it's the opposite. Trainers are there to teach yourself how to be accountable. That should be the whole point. It's like this should all be done yourself. You have to do this yourself if you want it. Right? If you want a true lifestyle change, you have to do it yourself. And that comes with self-accountability. So teaching that through along the lines with confidence too. You don't have to be harsh about it, But the final phase is teaching them the advanced stuff. It's like, all right, now we're going to do your genetic test, or we're going to play with your macros a little bit to figure out where you are. We're going to take down some cardio. We're going to put more weights in, yada yada. Then you start fine tuning. That's 3 to 4 months in, you might be able to get there if someone's working really hard. But you're looking at least for a month to 6 months for all that, for average.
Wouldn't a client also count on you to keep them accountable? Isn't that part of what a personal trainer does too? Is keep them accountable, because people are coming in and they need accountability, right? Right.
I think it's more about teaching them how to be accountable.
Okay.
Overall, right? It's like,
gotcha.
hey, this is what I do. Like I write my journal. This is how I keep myself accountable. I have community, like Brett here. Keep myself accountable too. Making sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people, right? Teaching those right things, right? It's like, for example, a client I had was like a barfly. It's like, well, hey, what environments are you surrounding yourself in? It's right. It's teaching accountability. It's like, do you think that's the right thing to do every day? It's like, well, they need to come up with themselves, because if you're just the one accountable, they're not going to learn any responsibility. Then it's all on you. It's like, well, I didn't get my workout in because you're supposed to make me accountable, and then that turns into excuse.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So, into what makes you, just a trip question here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. What makes you passionate about doing this and putting as much energy as you do into this? Obviously, there's a lot of different industries you could probably make more money in. What's like your driver behind all this? Like what makes you happiest? What gives you the most value, and why do you care so much about this?
Well, a few things, and one of the big ones is the people. The people you and I work with, man, like that's what really recharges your soul and your battery, is when someone comes in and it's like, hey, I don't fit into my bathing suit anymore, and their shape has changed, right? Or someone comes in and it's like, hey, I ate before the gym today. I haven't done that in months. It's like those little things really charge my battery. And then like the second really big driver is definitely the health issues my mom's had. Understanding that was a completely preventable illness, that I could still have my mom back if she made a few lifestyle changes. So understanding that there's a health epidemic that we're going through, and the product and the idea that you and I have come up with is so revolutionary. I believe that it can be applied anywhere, and that it can change the trajectory of where we're going with health and wellness.
So it sounds like you have no doubt that whatsoever the genetics and this process is the future.
Oh, no doubt whatsoever. I do think there's going to be more added on as the years go on, and then we'll be able to define genetic health and wellness a lot better with better testing, quicker testing as well. But I do think there's more to that down the road. You know, I think digital weights are going to have a big part of that in the future, like we said. I think there's going to be, you know, more different types of testing and whatnot. I think that the brain is the next big thing that they're going to be able to test with certain types of diseases and whatnot. So like I think that this is just the start of where it's going, but it's definitely the right idea right now.
So it's called Health Profiling. Is a book written by you discussing these principles. You can find it on Amazon, correct?
Amazon and Kindle.
Amazon and Kindle. It is, what is it, $10, $12, $15, something like that, 20?
The ebook is $9.99,
Okay.
and then the hard copy is $19.99.
All right, if somebody wants it signed, they can bring it in here and get you to sign it.
Yeah, if you're in Denver, buy the book. I'll come in, I'll sign it, and write you a little page or something.
So the book is Health Profiling. Trip Parks, obviously, will be putting out an audiobook of it for those who like to listen to the audiobook. Again, our grand opening is coming up tomorrow. If you are in town, stop by, say what's up to us. There are some big things happening on our front. We hope that you guys are having an amazing day and you got a lot planned for this weekend, and for the future of fitness. Leave them with a thought.
Your fitness journey can start right now. Doesn't have to wait tomorrow. Just start right now. Drop that cigarette, drop that drink, go home, get a good night's sleep, and get to the gym tomorrow. Also, thank you guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Please, 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 and tell everyone you freaking know about this.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful, great message.
Great, beautiful, great. Get on the books.
Great. Yes, very nice. And on to, thank you so much. This was the Health or High Water podcast. Lots of great information. Again, remember, we have some amazing people coming on the podcast coming up. Some doctors who have experience who we're going to have a ton of questions for. Lots of big things happening. And thank you to all the viewers in the other countries as well. We thought this would be a local thing, and it has spread to other countries. We are always grateful when we see new people tuning in. We appreciate you so much. Get on our website, leave us a message, and don't forget to leave us a review. All the reviews mean so much to us, and we are so appreciative of that. So this was the 26th episode of the Health or High Water podcast.
Wee woo, wee woo.